Welcome to Horseshoe Politics. Today is September 14th, 2020, and this is the first video in a two-part series of how either candidate can win the 2020 presidential election without winning any of the Rust Belt states, and these include the states of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Now, these four states, they got a lot of attention in the 2016 election because even though they were historically Democratic strongholds, Trump was able to flip all of these states except Minnesota, and he came really close to winning Minnesota as well. And because of this, Biden is putting a lot of effort into these four states to make sure he wins these states, and Trump is putting in a lot of effort to make sure he keeps these three states and flips Minnesota. I don't know why I shaded that in. So these four states are crucial states in the 2020 election. It's pretty likely, actually, that these four states could decide who wins the election. But in this video, we're actually going to be talking about how Biden could win the election without winning any of these four states. So even if he just decides to not at all campaign here, just give up these states, let Trump have them all, we're going to talk about how Biden can still win the 2020 presidential election. It's actually not as hard for Biden as it is for Trump. Trump has a much harder time winning without the Rust Belt. So we're going to go into detail with how Biden could win without the Rust Belt now. There's a few different ways. I'm trying not to make this video too long. I actually recorded this a couple attempts. I did a couple attempts of this video, but they were all too long in my opinion. They went on for too long. I said too many unnecessary things. So I'm just going to try to finish this up in a few minutes. Hopefully this is only a 7 to 8 minute video and not like a 15-minute video like most of my videos. Let's get started. For the safe states, we have the West Coast and East Coast, like normal. California, Oregon, Washington, Hawaii. Don't forget Hawaii. I always do that. Same with Alaska. You have the West Coast and you have the East Coast. So DC, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, New York. And then you have the middle America states like Illinois, Colorado, New Mexico, and then Virginia is also East Coast, I forgot. All these states are just states that Hillary Clinton in 2016 won pretty easily by at least 6 percentage points. And I would expect Biden to easily be able to win all of these states in 2020. There's almost no doubt in my mind that Biden will be able to win all these states. Because Hillary Clinton was able to win it by a few points, Biden's only going to do better in this election than Clinton did in 2016. That's what all the polls are showing. So Biden's going to win all these states. They're all safe for him, I would say. And that already brings Biden to 209, as you notice. Because the states like California, Illinois, and New York that have a lot of electoral votes that are also safe for Democrats, Biden easily is able to get above the 200 mark with just safe states. Let's get to the Republican safe states now. Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, North, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, Missouri, Alaska. Now Trump's at 181 when you include the safe states and the Rust Belt. So even with the Rust Belt, Trump's still behind Biden. That's mainly because I didn't shade in Texas, but Texas, in my opinion, is kind of a it's becoming more of a swing state. I talked about this in another video. I don't think it's fair to call it a safe state for Republicans anymore. So I'm just gonna leave it gray for now. But for Biden, he's already at 209. But I think we can shade in two more states, Nevada and New Hampshire, because these are states that Clinton won. And if Biden does better than Clinton in this election, logically speaking, he's going to win those two states. Also, he needs those two states if he wants to win without the Rust Belt. Otherwise, it's really hard for him to win. So after he wins Nevada, New Hampshire, then he has a few other options. One state he has to win, though, is Arizona. Because Arizona is basically a swing state in this election. In the past, it was a pretty strong conservative state, but it's been slowly moving towards the left recently, so now it's more of a swing state. And in 2018, the Senate seat actually went towards a Democrat. A Democrat beat the Republican in the Senate race. Kyrsten Sinema beat Martha McSally. Obviously, Martha McSally got the Senate seat in the end, but Kyrsten Sinema got more votes, which I think is what matters. So Biden, if he wants to win the election without the Rust Belt, he needs Arizona. He also needs Florida. Florida has 29 votes. If you're not going to win the Rust Belt, you need those 29 votes. That's really important. If you don't win Florida, then you're stuck with trying to flip Texas, which is not an easy thing to do. So he needs Arizona, he needs Florida. But once you win those two states, once Biden wins those two states, he really doesn't need that much more. He's at 259, so he only needs 11 more electoral votes. And all he has to do is win one of these 5 states, except Iowa. Iowa only has 6 electoral votes, but he could win Ohio, North Carolina, Georgia, or Texas and win the election, even without any of the Rust Belt states. So let's say Trump wins this congressional district, all of Maine, which I know is not going to happen. Trump is not going to win the whole state of Maine or the first district because Hillary Clinton won Maine at large and the first district. So let's say he wins the second district. Then what can Biden do? Bam. 277 for Biden. Without any of the Rust Belt states, Biden was able to circumvent these states and still win the election with what I'll call the new Southern strategy for the Democrats. Now, the Southern strategy, this is a history lesson, was originally used by Republicans in the 60s to try to win back the Southern states that had traditionally voted for Democrats for many decades. But because Nixon saw an electoral advantage in trying to campaign to appeal to these voters, he put extra effort into campaign Southern voters in order to win those states, and it sort of paid off because now the southern states are pretty solidly Republican for the most part, but some of these southern states are actually trending towards the left in recent years, like Arizona, like Texas, and North Carolina and Georgia maybe, and Florida is still a swing state, but a lot of these southern states have trended more towards the Democrats recently, so I'll just call it the new southern strategy for Democrats. I don't think that's an official term, but I've heard someone call it this before. So let me summarize this again. The strategy for Democrats to win, for Joe Biden to win, without any of the Rust Belt states. All he needs to do is win the Clinton states, win Arizona, Clinton states minus Minnesota, let me correct that. Clinton states minus Minnesota, so that's at 222 electoral votes. Then you just have to win Arizona, Florida, North Carolina, and then he can still win the election. Now, I understand all three of these states voted for Trump in 2016, but 2020 is not 2016. Biden, all the polls show he's doing multiple points better than Clinton did in 2016. So it's not at all out of the question that Biden wins all three of these states. And if he wins all three of these states, he doesn't even need the Rust Belt to win the election. But here's the thing. Biden is definitely going to win at least one or two of these Rust Belt states. So he's definitely going to get at least Minnesota and maybe like Michigan or Pennsylvania. But what this just shows is that Biden's in a pretty good position for this election, where he doesn't even need any of the Rust Belt states to still win the election, but he likely is still going to win these Rust Belt states anyway, so he has multiple paths to victory. But for Trump, as we'll talk about tomorrow, Trump has many fewer paths towards victory, because Trump basically needs the Rust Belt, otherwise it's really tough for him to win. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. But I think this is a great place to stop the video for today. I don't want today's video to be as long. I think 7 to 8 minutes is good enough. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you tune into tomorrow's video, where I talk about how Trump could win without the Rust Belt. Spoiler alert, it is not easy, but tune in for that tomorrow, and I'll see you then.